And we are live. There, take it away, Laura.
Hi, I'm Leora Harbison, and we are here today to talk about leading by example. And this will be a very organic conversation where we can all talk about what that means to us. I have 7 children. I run a real estate brokerage. I own a realty executives franchise. And so I have a lot, I have to have a lot of organization in my life. And, starting with at home, leading by example with my children, you think about what core values you want your children to have. It's, for instance, you want them to go to church, you have to go to church. You want them to do volunteer work, you have to do volunteer work. And it kind of same type of thing when it comes to the workplace. I never expect anyone to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself or that I'm not doing myself, working alongside my people. And, there's just, it's, people do watch you. You have to be respectful of them. You have to listen. Listening is probably the best skill, because if you listen to people and know what they expect and what their issues are and what their values are, it really helps, to be able to lead them. So that being said, I'm thinking that maybe a little bit of question and answer today might be a good way to do this, to kind of get the conversation going. So I'll start with Suha. What thoughts does this bring up in your mind?
I think you hit something really important, which is listening. A lot of us, when we are in a conversation, we're already thinking about what we want to respond with. And we're really not listening to what the person is saying. We're not asking questions. We're not trying to understand. And I think leading by example is doing that, is actually stopping yourself from having that conversation in your head of what you want to say, and really listen to the words that the other person is saying, and making sure that you understand and bring out, ask them questions so that you understand where they're coming from. And by doing that, it, like you said, it starts from the top. And when they see their leader doing that, then they start to do that as well. One of the things that I've done, for leading by example is whenever I'm in a Zoom meeting or a meeting in general, I actually turn off email, my phone. Everything is off so that they know that they have my full attention, so that I'm not hearing a ping and I'm going to go look at my phone, because that sends the wrong message to the person. And then again, in turn, they see you do it, so they follow the example and they do it as well.
Exactly. So, and Tiffany, what do you think is the most important aspect of leading by example?
Well, I'm just excited to be here with all you ladies today, because I admire you and watching you. So I just want to start off by saying that kudos to you all. Leading by example, I think is key. I think for any organization or any leader, especially a woman in leadership, I think we have to hold it to a different level of standard, because people treat us different because we are women. Leading by example, I think you have to show that you have the strength, the courage, the determination, and the persistence to push forward. I think pressing forward and always getting back up when you get knocked down, I think that's so critical. I think, it's great. And Desiree had shared with me before, everything always looks so great with you. It's kind of like you never have struggle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I always have struggle. And I think that's just a part of life. We all have struggle. And I think leading by example is showing those little moments, the moments when things are not going so well for us. I think having that authenticity is so important and so crucial for other people to see in their journeys, because I know a lot of people, they get discouraged when things don't work for them, because when you log on to social media or you see your peers in business, in other avenues, no matter where you are in life, you look at them and you're like, oh, they make it seem so easy. What am I doing so wrong? And so I think a gift of leading by example is being authentic in your leadership, showing your wins, but also showing your losses, and just showing your transparency of, who you are and what it takes to maintain where you are.
Right. They need to see your vulnerabilities. They need to see that you are a person and you have all those the same struggles. And because that, I think you hit on some very, very good points with that. So now, Angie, what are you thinking?
Well, I want to just commend Tiffany. I see your brokerage just rising up there in Texas and doing amazing. And you're about to get new awards and break through every single glass ceiling. So that's
Thank
a
you.
perfect, way to lead by example, is just taking all of that and, making the most out of what you've been given and showing people that you are courageous enough to take it to a level that no one else has taken it to before. I think that's really amazing. And also, we talked a little bit about accountability. Look at Leora's coming in here as we talk about accountability. She's busy today, but we all try to stay accountable and, basically show up for people, listen to people, and do the things that we say that we're going to do. And that is so important for leadership. And I think that too, failing forward, coming back to courageousness and not being afraid to try the new thing, be the one that's, paving this new path here, and sometimes being vulnerable enough to fail, and doing that with grace and taking your team alongside you and saying, okay, this one didn't work out, but how can we pivot gracefully into our next steps and all of our highest good? So that's really what that means to me.
Oh yeah, well, and they say if you never fail, you didn't try hard enough.
Amen, girlfriend.
Because nobody's going to succeed all the time, but yes, having and going through that as a team, in the workplace and even in the home is that's where you all grow together, and forming those strong bonds and relationships where they know they can depend on you, and you can depend on them. That just makes the whole group stronger. So Leora, you just jumped in here.
I did. Sorry, I was running a little late.
That's all
It's
good.
all good.
That's all good. But so we're just talking about leading by example, and we were just we were talking about kind of some of the key points about how important it is to listen and to to be willing to do the things that you're expecting of other people and be respectful of others and that type of thing. What thoughts do you have on the topic?
Well, I jumped in right as Angie was talking about failing forward, which is really quite interesting because I recently read the book Failing Forward by John Maxwell just a couple of months ago. And it came at a time in my life where I had just got fired from my job. So I found it to be very relevant to what I was going through. And it's critical not to sit on those moments for too long and to dwell on them. It's a moment in time. It's an opportunity to learn and grow. And it's taken a lot for me to get to a place where I'm not afraid of failing. And I still get those moments where that fear creeps in. And that's just part of, being a human being. You don't want to fail. You want to succeed at what you do, and also learn from those experiences. But if you're not open to those moments, then you might miss out on truly wonderful things. Or miss out on those moments that will teach you something that will make you a better leader, a better mom, a better wife, whatever the case may be. So but it's still difficult to be vulnerable to those moments because you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to feel disappointed in yourself or in others. But knowing that I'm not alone in those moments helps for sure. And it's helped me get to where I am today and what I'm doing in my career and the way that I've shared those failures with others to give them the courage to know, well, look where she's at now. She's been able to rise above those failures and move to a better place.
That's great. Yeah, no, absolutely. And having, listening to each other, having empathy for each other, in learning and growing with all of those, with all those experiences, and doing that, in yourself and with your employees and co-workers and with your family, all the way through. So now, Nancy, you've been lots of smiling. What you've been thinking about?
No, lots of smiling because every time I get together with this group, I just feel very inspired. And I think that is one of the key components to what we're talking about today, right? Being kind, being vulnerable, being inspirational, because the most powerful leadership tool that you could have is your own personal example. So I'm very intentional on how I want people to experience me. Whether it be as my customer, my colleague, a mentee, my friends. I want to ensure that those around me know that I have the best intention for me. And really, with my team, I want them to know that, as they're growing, I actually want them to be better than me because I'm constantly the student and I want to learn from them as well. So I think it goes both ways. I want my team, my friends, my colleagues to understand that we're here to serve the community. And as an unintended consequence of doing what is right and also changing lives, we do business with them. So if you know me, whether, I'm wearing my hat as president of the National Association of Real Estate Professionals, or, being here as a certified spokeswoman, or, speaking to Congress about, advocating for the community or mentoring my team, whatever hat I'm wearing at that time, and even with my competition, all of those actions create a landscape for them to know that you can do well while doing good. In fact, I consider myself someone who's very blessed. And because of that, I want to make sure that I'm paying it forward. And I want them to know that as me, as an example, I'm paying it forward. And I would like for you to pay it forward as well.
Mhm. Very good. Very, very good. So, yeah, one of the things that in principles in my business and what I've always tried to show my children as well is I am who I am all the time. I'm not one way here and one way there. There is no, oh, that's just business or what have you, and at least not in my life. So I've always been very, very careful to try to be very genuine and authentic, and I've never done anything at anyone else's expense. And a lot of people don't think that's possible in business. But I know that it is because I've been doing this for over 35 years. And at no time did I do something, my success wasn't because someone else got hurt. And I think that the people that and those are the types of people that I look to work with as well. And by being that example and not, maybe taking advantage in certain times when I could have, but I wouldn't, because again, I would never do anything at anyone else's expense. I think, that leading by that example and having my employees see that encourages them to do the same. So, that was kind of when you were talking, that kind of popped into my head because I've had that discussion and almost argument usually with male counterparts. But that, no, I mean, you are who you are, you're always who you are, and be genuine and be true to yourself, so I think that's important. So, Desiree, am I allowed to call on you yet?
I was on mute and I wanted to add something actually on that. I think the other side of leading by example is we want others to see us taking risks as well. Because when we take risks, we show that not just the vulnerable side, but we show that we're willing to push ourselves, to get out of our comfort zone, to do something that we haven't done before by taking that risk. Leora and I were very fortunate about 3 weeks ago. I did something that I had never done, and it was something that really helped me in my leadership and in me being able to show the way. We went on a 5-day hiking trip in Colorado with another group of women with a backpack, hiking up to 11,800 feet. That's something I had never done. That was a huge risk for me. And I wanted to do that because I want others to see that, hey, if you push yourself, you can do what you don't think you are able of doing. I mean, and Leora will laugh. I was the last one. I was
Oh,
like
I'm not gonna
trailing
laugh.
all the way in the back. I was huffing and puffing, but by damn, I was gonna do that. Sorry, pardon my French. I was gonna get up to the top,
Hey,
and I
you're
was
wearing a
gonna
necklace
keep
that
up
says
with them.
badass. You can say whatever you want, Suha.
I mean, but I think that's really important. That's an important part of showing, you know, of leading by example, is showing people that you are willing to take risks. That sometimes it's scary, but that, you know, what you get out of it makes you evolve and grow.
And I have to, you know, just to bounce off of that, I highly recommend anyone who has an opportunity to do something like that. And it doesn't matter what it is, just getting together with a group of other like-minded people, whether it's women, men, whatever, getting out of the daily humdrum and getting away from all the things that distract us and just spending time together, getting to know each other on another level. I mean, it's been 3 weeks and I'm still riding that high. I'm still looking at the pictures. I'm still reflecting on those moments that I spent with these amazing women. And I want to do it again. Like, when are we going to do it again? Because it's refueled my tank and it's refueled my soul. And I think it's critical, you know, leading by example. We're all extremely busy professionals, but we have to give ourselves time and grace to reset and to replenish ourselves, whatever that may mean. I'm not saying you have to go climb up to 11,800 feet and go skinny dipping in a lake, a glacial lake.
We're not talking about that.
But it just having those moments, it allowed me to see Suha in a way I never thought I did. And I thought I knew everything about her because she's my bestie, but I now see her in an even more beautiful way. And so that's what I would say, you know, by leading by example is be open to that and be cognizant that you need time for yourself, for sure.
To be honest to that, Leora, we were supposed to go to Tahoe next month because that was our mastermind retreat that we had, that Angie went, that had a phenomenal time and several. So, but because of Tahoe being under the fire they have going right now, you don't want to go there any close time soon. But no, I totally agree. Self-care is everything. And that's one of the reasons these types of meetings are so important is that it's the value of resetting, seeing similarities and rejuvenating and taking our principles was the whole core of having these incredible highs during our annual conference, but spreading them out every single month. I mean, Angie, you were there last year and just the incredible, and for those that we were there, and the ability to take it and have that same energy every single month to be on the calls. The NDILC, which is what these principles are about, when the leadership came together, they wouldn't give it up for the world to not only have these meetings, but have the private meetings that we have, because we get to just talk and be real. And we had that conversation, Laura, before we got on. But yeah, the one ground rule is that I have to be called last. So that's why if anyone's thinking, but what's the rule here going, is everything is your host and I'm just here to be in the background. But anyway, a couple of different points I'd like to highlight. One of the things about lead by example, I like to always talk about, if you look at the professional side, is don't be afraid to take the risk to go out there and show who you are and what substance you are, because a lot of times you'll be pushed back. And if you really believe in yourself and you really think it's going to go, keep it going. Don't ever give up the faith. And so the idea is that if you think about just why NAWRB, why the council, what we've been doing from that I chair, I look at it from the standpoint that wherever I go, I make sure that I'm heard and I'm seen by standing up for any event that you hear me speak in front of everyone and ask those questions. So by leading by example, by asking those questions, people get to see me, they get to hear me, and they get to see what I'm made of, that if they want to associate with me, they'll track me down versus me tracking someone else down. So I'm leading by being there and asking those questions to be heard, because then I get the full stage because everyone's at attention on there. Because then when I am presenting and I'm as the presenter, the keynote, or as a panelist, then I'm there to actually meet the other panelists, because then I'm collaborating at the top and everyone else gets to listen into our meetings. And that is the whole purpose of the spokeswoman, is to really have that opportunity to collaborate, but then also everyone behind that get to hear, and we all have heard many times, pay it forward, right? To be able to have that ability to go. And from, the aspect of personal, we're all dealing with logistics, and we're gonna call it stress. We could call it so much busy work that's going on, and who has the time to sit around and have a powwow like this? And let's be real. The reality is that if we don't take that self-care, and our mental health is the most important thing, that we can share a moment to say, oh, look what she's wearing, look what's going on, and have that moment just be relaxed and not deal with everything else. That is when we reset. And that's why that 10-minute nap that we are supposed to take in the afternoon is to reset, recharge, repurpose. Because if our mind's not set, our body's not set, our health's not set, and that is the one thing that can trigger us this quick, because we're all on edge on where we're going. So for a personal standpoint, Laura, I have no idea how you do 7. I have 4. Thankfully, they're all adults, but their problems are bigger. They're harder. They're more
Yep,
expensive.
little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. Yeah, I've only got 3 left at home, so I'm getting there. But my youngest is 12, so I got a little ways to go.
You got a little ways to go. And do you go to school? Do you not? Do you hybrid? Do you go through school? That whole thing, and I know, Angie, you don't have any, and Tiffany, I don't believe you have any, but the rest of us having those kids, the impact of those kids, and those who are being pregnant, having kids, that layer on top of it. So leading by example to me is, and you touched on it, Tiffany, about being under the hood. All of us have issues. Every one of us have personal, health, financial, business accolades and problems that we're dealing with, whether it's us personally or our extended families or friends we know that we're caring for and loving. And I used to always, oh, Desiree, you look great flying around everywhere. You look like you don't have a worry in your mind, when they had no idea 2 people were in separate hospitals and this and this and this going on. And I always say, don't judge a book by its cover. And I never said it first. I copied it from whoever said it at the beginning, and I have no idea who. But the idea is that get to know someone, as Leora, you mentioned that, you now Suha in a completely different light.
Mhm.
That power is what makes us different, is to find out really what a person's made of when you're at the going gets tough, the tough get going. And this is what this is about, because we need to show our vulnerability to be able to be welcomed into someone else's home and mine to go forward. So that's what I love to talk about, lead by example means to me.
I just want to pipe in about the Tahoe retreat, and that's exactly, what Leora and Suha are talking about. Like, we had 4 of us there, and we were just the synergy and the connections and just the deep level of understanding amongst those women now. Like, it's a bond that can't be broken, and it's definitely something, if you're wanting to be a leader, it shouldn't, it's so important to still be a part of those small mastermind groups that, like you guys said, fill your cup. So
Right.
Yeah, and it's great because we, the minute we got up there, there was no judgment, there was no preconceived notion, there was no, holding on to what our titles are, what we do in our day jobs. None of that mattered the moment we started our hike and got to the hut. And I saw women who have very strong roles in this industry break down all of those walls and be their very real, authentic self. And that takes so much courage. I can't begin to express how moving and powerful that was. And just knowing, hey, I'm not alone. I am struggling just like everyone else is struggling. But if we band together in those struggles, we can achieve so much. And I want to do it again, as soon as possible. And I live in one of the most beautiful states in the country, no offense. And so if anyone wants to come to Colorado, let's go for a hike and go do the Kumbaya thing. I don't know, but it was just, it was a phenomenal experience. And I would love to do it with the rest of the women here, our delegates. I think that would be fantastic.
I'm in.
Great.
I don't always wear lace tops. I do also exercise.
You mean Tiffany's not in pearls every day? Come
Not every
on.
day. I would actually love that, Colorado. I think we need to do that.
It was gorgeous. Yeah.
Let's
Right
do
now
it.
during fall, during fall, when everything, all the leaves are changing colors, it's beautiful. I've been to Colorado and Vail around September, October time, and it was beautiful. Of course, it was 28 degrees one day, and the next day it was 80.
Yep.
But But it
You are
is
experiencing all
definitely,
kinds of seasons all at once.
Yes, that's
yes.
why when you're backpacking, you have a 50-pound pack because you have to pack for all
All
weather
weather.
possibilities. So
Yeah. But I mean, for me, the significance of that particular trip, and I know, you were talking about your trip, Angie and Desiree, is that my nieces who are in their early 20s saw me do that. And to
Oh,
them, that was like, that is so cool, Suha. And I want to do that. I want to put myself out there. Even like my boys seeing me do that, my husband seeing me do that. It is in its way showing others how you treat yourself and what's that self-care aspect of it, and that you're willing to put yourself out there. It helps, it shows them that they can do it too. And I think that for me was the most significant thing that I got out of it,
That's great.
other than
I-
all the women and
Yes.
Well,
Another
I like-
another thing that I would say and this is great. Those are all the positive aspects. But another thing that I do like to show is also the negative aspects of that. Because, yes, you made it to the top, but what if you don't make it to the top? What is your reaction? What is your bounce back? How badly do you judge yourself? I think that's another thing that people watch out for. I've had team members or other people just break down, after they felt that they felt. But the reality is that's not the end. That's not, a failure that will last forever. And, your reaction and your bounce back and how you show that also is important.
right. Yeah. That example of, how do you react when you fail? That's exactly. Yeah,
well,
'cause-
I love that idea, and I am still mentally in Colorado with you girls because I'm just so loving that right now. But I love what you brought up too, Nancy, about the failures, because I was talking to my CPA this morning, and she was reminding me of an issue that happened where the loss of one of her relatives. And I think we have to realize as well that mental health is real. And I say that because I know coming out of COVID-19, just hearing some of the stories of what people have gone through emotionally and mentally, now that they are kind of had been trapped in the house, so to speak, with one another, or just trapped with themselves, you realize who you are, which you hadn't realized before because you were always so busy and on the go. And when you had to stand still, then you kind of realize all the nuances that you don't really like about yourself, or you don't like about the people maybe in the house with you. I think leading by example, is a big thing. I think because people have to understand there's so many layers to life. It's not all good. There are going to be failures, and it's okay to fail. And it's okay to discover something about yourself that you hadn't recognized before. We can always change and evolve as people. And I think this is one of those moments where we really, leading by example truly defines who we are, because it stretches you beyond the boundaries. Because I love what you said. What happens to you mentally if you don't make it up the hill? How are you going to beat yourself up? How are you going to punish yourself? And that can be for any goal in life. So I'm just loving the conversation.
yeah.
And I think it's really important to show people that failing at something does not make you a failure. And
Yes.
that's a huge
Right.
distinction that needs to be communicated, and that needs to be, so if you have team members that, that you work with and they fail at something, it's really important to explain to them that that's a learning experience. What are the lessons learned? It doesn't make you a failure. And especially the younger generation, they equate a failure with them being a failure. And that's a huge distinction that we as leaders have to explain. And again, lead by example.
Right. Well, and that's in your business, but that's in your home as well. I have
Mhm.
lots of young adults, watching me and watching me. Am I taking care of myself? Watching me. How do I react when something doesn't go right? And they've been sponges since they could walk, and so
Yeah.
it definitely, it's important in all aspects, because we're always setting an example. We just want to set a good example.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to add, we had a win that, you know, when the pandemic hit and the shifting on, you know, what are we gonna do as a company? What are we gonna do for everyone? You know, everyone paused, you know, and you think of organizationally, what are people to do that lived on and communication and being together, because everyone, what was their purpose? So you saw the fracturing for a couple months, right? So we had an article that was run by Jackie Bonatani. She did an article in Alaska. And if you remember, probably about 2 years ago, it was really an incredible read. And she didn't want to, her mom was telling me about, and I said, oh my gosh, I want to cover it. You do? Oh my God. You know, like, so I had to convince her because she didn't think she could do it, put it together and actually put the writing together. And I had time after time, I had to convince her to, yes, it's okay. Yes, it's okay. We'll help you. She put it together. Guess who appeared on CNN 2 weeks ago? I just got the link to it, had no idea. And she's now out in Mount Washington Observatory under this theory about the weather change you were talking about, from 50 degrees below zero at 150-mile-an-hour winds. And she graduated and she's 22 now at this top observer. While we're all sitting here baking, she's out here freezing and handling to monitor the climate change that's going on in the world right now. And here from our article, we were the very first person to an organization and company to globally produce her article that she didn't want to write of her expedition in Alaska that she spent 45 days. So the win is CNN covered her in the same element, and we were first to bring it to light. So the idea of paying it forward, of understanding the talent and saying no on a very you know, granular individual, look what it can change and what notoriety it can bring to, as you being a mother and that scope. So I just want to lay it out there that anytime that you believe in someone, take that moment to lead and continue to grow. So I just want to tell you about the win that literally I just got about an hour and a half before the show. I went, oh my gosh, I don't have time to read. And I cheated right before we started.
Wow,
So
great.
cool.
Well, I mean, Desiree, I feel like you've done that for me. I was not one to actually like to speak or write about myself. In fact, I still hate it. But I do it because you pushed me to do that, and you saw, you know, the talent in me, or what I think you saw the talent in me. I don't know, but
Elegance, grace.
yeah, you know, in me. But I typically do not like to publicly speak or write about, and especially if it's about me.
Look at the videos you're doing. Look at you sharing. Look at you going, check it out. No, it's all you. And all I do is I see it. I just give you that extra push because I see a lot of people in where I struggled. You would never believe that when I was a little girl at 5 years old going in front of the class, I had the fear. You could not get me up there. You couldn't drag me up there. I'd be crying. I'd be like, there's no way I'm going to do it. And because of my inefficiencies to be able to do it, I forced myself, and now I still get fearful, but I'll go up and talk to the president, whoever, I don't care. What are they gonna do? Say no? The worst they can do is say no. And articulation and perfection has got to go. Even though I'm all about that, I know I'm not, so who cares? You do your best and you move forward. So thank you for the compliment, Nancy, but I just believe that if I can see something I can change and help, lay it out. If you want it, great. If you don't, it's okay.
Well, and
I
you
think
have to execute, Desiree. I mean, I want to thank you for, you know, encouraging me to write that article about the Airbnbs and the sharing economy, because it was something that, like, you know, you mean to do it, but coming back to accountability, it's like we have 100 things on our plate, but Desiree will remind us of these important things that we end up looking back later, you know, a year later or months, you know, past, and say that was something that was important to have done. And so I love it that you're a visionary and that you can see those things, and for other people, not just yourself. That's, you know, great leadership, and then encouraging them to move forward on it. And I know you're doing it with your agents over there too, Tiffany. So it's good stuff.
How many times did I call you on that? How many times did I go? But that
Probably 3.
but the cool thing is you did it how much notoriety and how much can you say? And look at now getting lots in the middle of and 3-unit, cabins and things like that, and hotels. This is where people want to see quality pieces, and they want to see that notoriety, because Tiffany does a phenomenal job at keeping herself in the news. And if we forget what's underneath the hood and where we came from, Laura, you do a phenomenal job. Every day I see multiple posts on check this house out. Look at this. Look what I'm doing. Look at what you're keeping yourself relevant and what's going on. Nancy, you're now doing a ton of videos. And Suha, you had all the Empower and what I'm doing, the spotlight going this. And Angie was plugging every single week during the summer. Look what I've been. Oh my gosh, you ever lay at home? No, I don't live at home. But that idea, and Leora going from job to job, who gives a squat? Until you're happy, it is what it is.
I don't know if that's a good thing to say that way.
It's a reality, because how many people, Leora, are struggling right now that don't get that they might have 5 different time frames. I could tell you I've had some council members who have gone through what you've gone through. So the idea is that we have to be real, and we got to express. I mean, my lawsuit just settled. My banking lawsuit just settled 3 weeks ago. And if you want to talk about, do you want to expose that what I'm doing and helping people, scale, investing in companies, being an advisor and all that stuff? Oh, gee, you can't manage your own bank account? Like, what's wrong with you if you're out advising everyone else? So once you got the whole story, you're going, I completely understand, not a problem, but I had to come clean. So we all have to show our vulnerability, and lead by example is an amplification of that. And so sorry for stealing your show, Laura, but
Yeah, it's all
It's a
good.
great conversation.
Yeah,
I
great.
truly-
Well,
I
those
like
are
how you
good-
point out perfectionism. Perfectionism's got to go. I definitely, I really, that resonates with me, because that's one of the things that I struggled with, is making sure that I sounded perfect, did everything perfect, did I dot my I's, cross my T's, all of that.
But then you're not
all of it.
authentic. But then
Yes.
you're not authentic, because then you're putting on a face and you're smiling. Look at me. I'm beautiful. I'm perfect. Which you are. But
Oh, thank you.
but I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I
Mhm.
totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And it keeps people from growing and even like launching themselves into a new job or a new project or anything, because they're waiting for that perfect moment, and that doesn't always come. And then also just, sometimes you don't feel at your best. Sometimes, you go on and you speak and you kill it. And other times I sucked because I don't know what happened that day. Maybe I was thirsty. I didn't drink enough water. I don't know. But I leading by example and showing that I'm not always perfect, with my teams and my friends, and being okay with that, and just letting that just roll off of me now has liberated me. It literally has, pulled a weight off of my shoulders, being okay that I'm not 100 every day, and that's okay.
Yeah, we are all our own worst critics, and we always have that little voice going in the back of our head. Yeah, that we could have done better, should have done better. And I know
Her name is Suella, by the way. Mine and her name is Suella. I've actually caught. She has a name.
Gotta keep Suella behind in the back.
Exactly.
I love
Luella?
Yeah, we can't help it, but we have to
Yeah.
we have to push that down and know that the way that we see ours, again, people see us, it looks like it's so easy for you, this, that, and the way that other people see us versus the way we see ourselves is always definitely very different. But yeah, letting go of the having to have everything exactly perfect, because I relate to that 1,000%. And probably the first 10 years in my career, I was about to have, an internal nervous meltdown, complete breakdown anytime anything wasn't exactly perfect. So I've definitely relaxed a lot over the last couple of decades, and maybe it's just because the kids have just beat me down. I don't know.
Well,
You got
I-
wiser. No, you've gotten wiser.
Yeah.
So, look at behind me. These are all the covers of our magazines. Now,
love
the
that.
last year is not up here, but this is for the last 12 years,
Wow.
not 13 years. And as I look at it, one would say, I'd be like going, all right, oh my gosh, I would have done this, and this change on this cover. Let's go change it. And 2 years ago, I would have told my designer to go do it. And now I'm like, forget it. It's done. It's printed. There's no point in making a collage to be flawless and what you have your ideology today. And I think that we need to remind ourselves, and we go back to storytelling by leading by example. At the time slot that our grandparents were telling us their legacy, and our parents and us to our children, we have to lead with what we know and our experiences of what we know now, and not go back and try to change in time, but to make sure we move in the future. So by leading by example, one of the things I talk about now is it's not what I've done in my past and not what I'm going to do today, but where as a visionary am I going to go tomorrow and in 5 years from now? How am I going to lead by example today to make a future difference? Because where are you going to get your water? Where are you going to get your food? Where are you going to get the infrastructure? Where are you going to live? Because of all the economy that's going on right now, if you live on the West Coast, if you live on the East Coast, you know, what is your, you know, women are not going back to work as much. We could talk about so many different layers in here. And I like to look at from a lead from example, how are we leading into the integration of our lives that is making it to where we doubt ourselves, but we need to have confidence that we got to try this out. And what doesn't work, we pivot and we keep on going because of those experiences. And I know, Leora, you could, you just said it. You have 7 kids. Okay. They wore you down. No, you understand the fundamentals of what matters because you got to pick your battles. You
Right.
can't fight everything. I'm
Right.
sorry.
You have to prioritize, you know, and pretty soon, a lot of things that used to be very important, they've not so important anymore. And yeah, it really does. Well, we all grow. We're all a product of our experiences, and be the personal experiences, professional experiences, and yeah, I mean, so you know, it's ever changing. We're always learning, you know, and that's where, you know, listening and paying attention and getting all the positive points from the people around you, and having, you know, being around those like-minded people who can share experiences and have these exchanges like we are right now. You know, we're all going to take a little bit of this with us today, and it's, you know, we're all going to be better people for it. So yeah, it's all good. It's all positive.
Well, what I love too is just leading by example. A big thing for me, especially for us as women, is strategy. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people make the misconception that women are emotional, which we are, and I think that's the human side of us. But we are great strategists, and I think Desiree just hit it when she talked about each and every one of us. I think having a strategy in place and letting people see that, letting them see beyond that, you know, you're not just making decisions fly by night, but you actually have a strategy in place.
Mhm.
And, you know, you're strategic about it. And even like with Leora, you know, if something doesn't fit, it's time to progress. And it's nothing wrong with that, progression. And I think, you know, men do it all the time. You know, if a career is not what they want to be, or if they're not getting the money or the resources that they need from a company, it's called moving up for them, right? It's seen as a positive, but sometimes for women, it's seen as a detriment for us. And I think we have to see ourselves different. I think that's progress. There's no failure in progress. So strategy, having a strategy, whether what does my career look like 5 to 10 years from now? And how do I get there? And staying in the same place may not be the avenue in order to get there. And I learned that along my journey because, you know, one of the companies that I used to be an agent at, you know, they pulled their franchise and went to another franchise. And that wasn't the direction I wanted to go. So I had to make a decision. This doesn't fit. This no longer fits me. So I'm going to have to make a move. And, you know, I had to wrestle with the decision. I've been here most of my career, pretty much all of it, and it's working, but it's not the direction they're not moving in the direction that I want to go. And so for that reason, I had to make a very scary and big decision at that time, especially as a young agent. And it was time to move on. And, you know, if I had not taken those avenues and those detours in my career and in my journey, there's no way that I'm sitting where I am now. And sometimes we can't see that because it's hard to see the future. But I think if I knew then what I know now, strategy, would have been the word that I would have given myself.
Very good. It's important to have a plan and to, yeah, well, and hey, you knew where you wanted to go and you weren't going in that direction, so you fixed it.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
I think strategy and execution go hand in hand.
Yes.
You got to have the plan and you got to have the strategy, but then you have to execute on it, because your actions is what's going to get you your results. And, you know, and a lot of times, a lot of people think of big things and that scares them and overwhelms them. But when you actually break it down, it becomes a lot more digestible for them, because then they can see the progress. And I think on a personal level, you know, if you're doing that, whether and your kids see it or your teammates see it, that they know what your goal is, you've shared your goal, this is what I want, and these are the things that I'm doing, then you're setting the example, you're leading by example, you're showing them, one, set your strategy, two, set your execution plan, and then move forward little by little. And I think that creates that momentum. And it really does then show that you are in control. You're not letting your environment or your situation control you.
Right. It's very
I
important.
would say one of my biggest cheerleaders is actually my daughter, Natasha. She's 13. She's seen the highs and lows of my career. She has witnessed, you know, the progression of my life because it's affected her. You know, she was born in 2007, and in the course of the last 13 years, we have moved to 7 different states. I've lost count at this point, but so she understands that, you know, she's proud of her mom because she knows that, you know, I've been through some really difficult times during the course of her life. I've had cancer. I've had to have surgeries. I've had medical problems. I've been through some severe loss in my life, and she sees that I'm moving on past that with my head held high, and that even though there may be moments where I feel like I'm falling apart and I've lost all control, that I don't sit in that place for too long. And so she's like, Mom, I'm just so proud of you, and I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm not going to get emotional. I'm not going to cry. Okay.
Reset.
Love it.
Well, no,
I
but
love
this is me being vulnerable. No,
Yes.
this is me being my real authentic self. But, you know, when I go through those moments, I know that she's looking at me and looking for guidance and looking for that, you know, what am I looking for? Looking for, you know, that example that I'm trying to set for her. Right. And so it's important for me to always keep her in mind when I'm doing what I do on a daily basis. Because if, you know, the last person I want to let down is my kid. You know, there's a ton of other people and I'm like, I don't care. But my kid, you know, she's always first and foremost in my life. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to make one other comment on something that Suha touched upon. And in leading by example, it's extremely important for your organization that you're leading to know where you're going, what the goal is. So to have a plan, to be executing the plan, but for the other people that are on the journey with you to understand what the plan is, what the goal is, and how they play a part in that. And that, you know, that's just when you were talking, it popped into my head, and I thought, oh my goodness, because that's something I've heard and seen in my own business over and over, is if people don't know where you're going, you know, it's hard for them to,
Or why, or even why.
yeah, what's the why?
Why are we going there?
Yes. And knowing the why always helps.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what Tiffany was saying, you know, where she was no longer served her purpose, her why, what she wanted. And so she had to make that difficult decision of,
Right.
well, this is no longer serving me. I'm successful here, but it's no longer serving me. It's not my values anymore. And then showing that to others that, hey, sometimes it's okay to say, this is no longer right for me. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that you're not committed. Actually, it means you're fighting for yourself. You know,
Right.
a lot of times people talk about fight or flight and, you know, you backing away from something because I don't look at it that way. I look at it, you're fighting for yourself and you're deciding what matters to you, what serves your purpose and your why. And I think that's very critical and fundamental when you're trying to lead by example.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The goal and the plan can change. There always has to be a goal and a plan, but the goal and the plan can change.
Yeah.
So
Well, in our industry, we have to be extremely nimble. I mean, the strategy is constantly changing. The market is constantly changing.
Up and
So,
down, up and down.
so yeah, whether it be, cutting those bags that are holding you down so that you can move on to the next thing, or changing your overall strategy, just being nimble is very important, for you to succeed. I had to do that myself. I had, didn't have a career change. It's still along the same lines, but in order for me to get the promotion that I get now to be a senior vice president, today, I had to cut, my previous company, which I'm extremely grateful for, right? It wasn't that I wasn't grateful for the opportunity that they provided and everything that I learned from there and all the relationships that I made there. However, for me to get a promotion and, double my salary and do all that, I had to cut them out. And I had to, take the emotion away from it, of the fact that this is where I felt comfortable. This is where I've been for 14 years, and do what's best for me.
Again, serving your purpose and your
Mhm.
why.
And I
Yeah.
think a lot of us here today take that for granted, that we strategize and that we execute the strategy. But I think that, that's one of the things that I feel as a good realtor, that's what we're helping these buyers do, because
Yes.
literally people, like, school doesn't necessarily teach our children how to do those things, and they're mission critical for everyone. And we've all talked about it. It's whether you feel like a pinball in life, or whether you feel like you're a driving force in your own life, and making the calls. And I think that's why, hopefully somebody's watching this today that's unhappy and it's like, why am I unhappy? It's like, get a strategy and start executing it, and don't be afraid to fail, and you'll find that happiness. Like, it's out there. And that's, in your work life, in your health life, in your family life, all of that kind of, it's not even just one aspect of your life.
You got to remove the
Somebody's-
noise.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, stop trying to fit in. You either belong or you don't.
Yeah, there you go.
And it was really an eye opener, because it's like, growing up, I always was trying to fit in and be what they needed me to be, whether it was my parents, my family, my friends, school, work, whatever. I always wanted to fit in. And when I did that, I was not being my genuine, authentic self, because I was always trying to fit the model that they wanted. And it really wasn't until someone said that to me, and I was like, that's so true. You either have the self awareness and the self assurance to be who you are, and those around you will either accept it or they won't accept it.
right.
And that's how you know who you should keep in your life, where you should stay and work or not. And again, that also leads into what we're talking about, because when you stand up for yourself, when you lean into yourself and say, I'm the most important person in my life, then you can show it to others, and they can then take that as themselves and know that they need to be in control and they are the most important person.
But
I
Rich,
love it. That's all about empowerment. And I think that's something that we have to remember, who is and who is not in our lives. And I think that's a big thing, leading by example, because there are a lot of us, who have so much great potential, and a lot of friends that we have that have so much great potential, but they're being held back because they're surrounded by the wrong people. I love that empowerment of saying, hey, it's okay if you're surrounded by people that are not healthy for your life, or healthy for your business, or healthy for you personally. It's okay to move forward.
Boundaries. It's okay to have boundaries.
Absolutely.
Oxygen for you and then for everyone else. If you don't
Yeah.
give yourself oxygen, and that oxygen doesn't have to be a parabolic oxygen, it could be all aspects.
Yeah. I love that.
Nobody wants to follow a dull leader either. Like, if you're not shining, if you're not something that people are literally like, what's going on with them? Why, they're like attracted to, then, it's still okay to lead on your own path. I'm not saying that, but, if you talk ultimately about leadership, one of the challenges is getting a tribe and a team behind you, because that's, we can't do it all alone. So
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, is there anything you want to close out with, Laura? We're getting up to the hour, so we have to close out here. So is there anything you'd like to say in parting wisdom?
Well, I think we've covered a lot of really good ground here today, and it seems like we're all on the same track. We've all got the the same vision of what leading by example is, and whether it be in our personal lives or our professional lives, we have a plan, we have a goal, we're sharing with people, we're keeping our own energy up by like you said, you need your own oxygen before you can share with others. And just keeping that energy up so that people want to be in your circle, and having the right people in your circle is really important. Remember, my father told me from a very, very young age, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. So I learned to recognize the turkeys.
And the turkeys can change. They can change at any time.
Yeah, don't be the turkey. But no, it's been a great talk, and thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you everyone coming. So lead by example. Inclusion isn't enough. Press for parity and strive for excellence in everything. So I want to thank everyone for being it. Everyone is a delegate. So if you'd like to learn more about what we do and how we do it, I am the chairwoman and the founder for NAWRB, Women Housing Real Estate Ecosystem. You can get us at NAWRB.com. We are coming out with our magazine. It'll be out at the end of next month or the beginning of first week of November. It's called Technology Human Balance. We trademarked it 5 years ago, and who would have thought technology human balance would be something that would be forever changed with the fourth industrial revolution, but we all had to pivot back in March of 2020. So that being said, if you have anything you'd like to submit, be part of, or encouraged to be in the ecosystem of what we do here, please reach out. And most importantly, everyone be safe and stay healthy, because we all are here together to help each other to continue for the life of elevate women, bridge industries to change the world. So thank you all. I appreciate, and thank you very much, Laura, for hosting. And we look forward to seeing you all next month. So take care and see you all later.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.